All right, as we come to chapter 17, you're going to be looking at depreciation. And what depreciation basically is when you buy an asset, let's just say a truck or a piece of equipment, it doesn't retain its original value. But when you first enter it into your books as an asset, you put it in as the value at which you bought it. But it has to depreciate over time because it doesn't retain its original value. And so you have to depreciate it every year on your books to keep the value correct, and that your assets, your ultimate total assets value being correct. If not, you're going to have inflated numbers because you can have an asset like a piece of equipment or a vehicle that has lost value, but you still have it as a certain high value. So you have to depreciate that every year in your books to keep your assets accurate. And so that's the purpose of depreciation. And there's multiple different ways in which you can depreciate. And again, they all are for various reasons, mostly tax reasons, that you would benefit from doing it one way over another. So we're going to cover 4 different methods. The first one is what we call straight line depreciation. The second method is called sum of the years depreciation. The third one is called declining balance depreciation. And then the last one is called units of production depreciation. So those are the 4 we're going to look at. And each one, they're not difficult to do, but there's a table involved. You have to put together a table. And I might actually just do a couple, like one line of the table, then I'll probably show you the book if I can to give you the rest of the table, only because I don't have my iPen, so I can't draw them. It's going to be too difficult for me to draw these tables out that are there. But let's look at this first problem together, and we'll get started on at least figuring out the, and by the way, all these formulas are on the formula sheet that I'll be using. But basically, you have here the question: Wildflower Bakery purchased a new oven for $125,000. So this is the new piece of equipment, right? Shipping charges were $11.50. Installation amounted to about $750. The oven is expected to last 5 years and has a trade-in value of $5,000. That's called the salvage value. And when you're all done depreciating it, it has a value that if you sold it, you'd get at least that value. And that's what we call salvage value. So here, the first thing we want to consider is, what is the total cost then? What are they going to be depreciating? And they allow you, believe it or not, to put into your total cost some of these other expenses. So 125,000 plus 1150 plus 750. So all those costs together come out to 126,900. So that is your total value of your asset that you've purchased. And to do total depreciation, you're going to, using the straight line method, you're going to use the following formula. You're going to do total cost minus salvage value. It's going to be too hard to do with this. So that, in this case, it would be 126,900 minus the, what's the residual value? 5,000 is what it's going to be worth. So that comes down to 121,900. So that is the amount that you are going to depreciate. Now that's what we call total depreciation. Now what you want to figure out next is what we call annual depreciation. And that is the total depreciation, which we just figured, divided by useful years. So in this case, they're saying it's going to last for 5 years. So my total depreciation was 121,900. And I'm going to divide that by 5 years. That means every year I have to depreciate this asset $24,380. So that would be what I need to depreciate every year. Now that you're not done with the problem. You found out how much you depreciate every year. Now you need to prepare, as it says here, a depreciation schedule for its useful life. So what I'm going to do, I apologize, I'm going to have to clear the screen. And I'm going to go ahead and do that depreciation value. So we know that it was 24,380. And typically a depreciation chart kind of looks like this. We'll call this book value. So we're going to write that 126,900 was the total value. And then we're going to put year. So year 1, we're going to put depreciation annually, let's call that DA, and then accumulated depreciation are the different categories in this first list. So year one, we already said that we're going to depreciate every year $24,380. And the first year accumulated depreciation is how much did we accumulate? Well, it's the same, right? Depreciation was only $24,380 for that first year. And we would deduct that $24,380 from the existing book value, which is the original amount I paid. So that's going to be minus that, and it's going to give me a total of $102,520. Okay, so that is now the new book value after 1 year's depreciation. However, in year two, we're going to have another $24,380. Our accumulated depreciation is now twice that amount because we accumulated 24,000 last year, now 24,000 this year, so it's 48,760. And then the 24,380 needs to be deducted from the 102, and that gives me a new amount of 78,140. That's the end of year two. And so then year three, I do the same thing. Year four, I do the same thing. Year five, I do the same thing. And when I get to the very end, I'm going to have $5,000. That'll be my salvage value. And each year I have a different amount. So the next year I'll have 53,760. That'll be the book value. Again, 24,380 will be the same for every year. This would be every year. This would be added to the accumulated depreciation. So it would be 73,140. It would be 97,000 at year four, 520. That's how much it's been depreciated, and then it'll be 121,900 with a $5,000 residual. So that's pretty much the schedule, and that's how you would do it. And all you're doing is you're taking so you got to get the depreciation amount correct. This amount, annual depreciation, and once you get that correct, you're just doing the math straight across, starting with the book value. Let me show you on the computer or in the book this chart. So I'm going to stop. Yep. So hold on a second, see if I can find it. I thought I had it here. So let me go here. It might take me a second to get to the book. So give me just a second. Okay, so on PowerPoint 17 actually worked better. I have here the depreciation schedule mapped out for you exactly as I was showing you on the screen. So that is how you do a depreciation schedule. But you got to start by, of course, figuring out that annual depreciation of 24,380. So very good. Thank you, Bhavna, for pointing that out to me. All right, so that's the first question. That's the first way in which you can do depreciation. Now we're going to move to the second way, which is called sum of the years. So let me pull that sheet up here, and I need to reshare my screen. So hold on a second. I'm going to reshare my screen, and I'm going to go ahead and go to the next page. So the next page is start sharing. There we go. All right. So I'm going to go to the next one, which is the sum of the years. So let's see, here it is, this one. So now we're going to do the sum of the years, and hopefully this one's in the PowerPoint slides as well. We'll find out. But this one here is, what is it? Bow Valley Kitchens purchased a new production line machinery for $44,500. The company expects this machinery to last 6 years and have a residual value of $2,500. Using the sum of the years digit method, prepare a depreciation schedule for Bow Valley. So again, we want to figure out first off is what is the total depreciation. It's the first thing we want to do every time. So again, that's total cost minus salvage value. So in this case, it is 44,500 minus 2,500, which equals 42,000. So that is my total depreciation. And then for the SYD, or sum of the years, I don't know how they do it, sum of the years data. I think it's SYD is the abbreviation, but you guys know what I mean. This is it's called the depreciation fraction. And this also is in your formula sheet, is you're going to take the years of useful life and you're going to divide that by this formula, which is n plus 1 divided by 2. And in this case, if we took the value of we took this useful life is 6, right? And then it's going to be 6 plus 1 divided by 2. And if I do the formula on that, it's going to come out to 6 over 42 for the bottom there, divided by 2. And then it's going to ultimately be 6 over 21. And so that becomes the value for which 6 years, the 21 remains the same for the rest of this problem, but every year it changes. So what we'll do, I'll clear my screen again. And I'm going to go ahead and what we said that it was going to be 42,000 that needs to be total depreciated. So that's going to be our original book value is actually going to be 44,500. And we're going to do our total depreciation every year is going to be 42K. And so we have years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Remember, it was 6 years. And then there's the rate, which we just saw was 621. And then that's going to lead us to our annual depreciation and then our accumulated depreciation as we do the math. So if you times 42K or 42,000 by 6 divided by 12, you're going to come out to 12,000. So in year 1, you depreciate that 44,500 by 12,000. That's going to give you a total of 32,500. And then the next year, another 42,000 is the total depreciation. You need to keep that in there. This is going to be 5 by 21 because now it's only 5 years left. And you're going to do that one. That one's going to come out to 10,000 if you do the math. And so you're going to depreciate that. The accumulated depreciation would be 12,000 the first year and 10 the next. That would be 22,000 total depreciation. And that would lead to a new value of 22,500. And anyway, you'd keep going down. You'd go 4 over 21. You'd go 3 over 21. Sorry. You would do 2 over 21, and then you do 1 over 21, and you'd multiply each of those by 42,000. And that's going to give you a amount of depreciation for each year. So 8,000 in year 3. It's going to be 6,000 in year 4. It's going to be 4,000 in year 5, and it's going to be 2,000 in year 6. And ultimately, what you're going to end up with at the end of your schedule is 2,500. That is the residual value. So you know you did it right if you have 2,500. Now, let me just say this. Sometimes, however, your last year actually would be more depreciation than what your residual value is. So you actually limit how much it depreciates that last year to keep your residual value. And a lot of your problems have stars on them. So, but Bhavna, is this one also in the PowerPoint slide?
Yeah, it's there, Professor, on slide 12, except that instead of 44,500, it's 445,000. It's just an addition of another 0, but the same sum is there.
Okay. Did I do a mistake or is it?
You have it here as 44,500. In the sum, we have it as 445,000.
Oh, okay. That's strange.
It's just another 0, but we have the slide as slide 12.
Well, if you look at the problem, though, it says 44,000.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was maybe me copying it down wrong, but I don't think so. I just cut and pasted it. Anyway, that's some of the years. Just remember, you have to do that first initial math where you took the years, the formula 6 plus 6 plus 1. Remember that divided by 2. And once you do that one time, that's all you need to do it. Then that becomes your factor for every year that you depreciate. So that's pretty much it for some of the years. I won't go any further with it on that. I think this is actually in your book. It's the problem that should have a solution on like page 563 or something like that. So that's some of the years. The next one's declining balance, and it's very similar. They're all very similar, by the way. None of these are are radically different. They're all very similar to one another. But again, they also are used because of different tax purposes. So I'm going to just go ahead and go to the next one, which is the declining balance method. And this is, again, a little bit different formula, but you can look it up. It's on the formula sheet. This is called the declining balance rate. It's what you're looking for first. So I, once again, very much apologize for the poor not having my iPen. Really disappointed by that. Times multiple. So in this case, this is the how you get the rate of double declining depreciation, is you have to use the formula to get the rate. And so it's 1 divided by useful life. So the useful life on this one, in Kalawana Air Service bought a small commuter plane for $386,000, is expected to have a useful life of 4 years. So 1 divided by 4 multiplied by the multiple. In this case, it's the 150,000. So we'd have to convert that to a decimal, which would be 1.5. And so if I do 1/4 times 1.5, it comes out to 0.375. That is my declining balance rate. And so in the same way that we did before, we had year 1, 2, 3. This is asking for 4 years. We have this one actually does beginning balance. I'll do B, and then we have ending balance here. And then in between, we have rate, which is what we just did, so 0.375. And we have depreciation for the year, so annual depreciation. And then we have accumulated depreciation as well. And so every year, whatever the balance is going to be multiplied by 0.375, and that's going to give you your depreciation for that particular year. So for instance, this particular item is $386K. Oops, sorry. Let me redo that. $386K times 0.375 comes out to $144,750 for the first year. So that's how much is going to be depreciated year 1, and that's going to be taken off of the total, the 386,000. You'd minus the 144 for 1 year's depreciation. So at the end of year 1, you'd have a new book value for that asset of $241,250. Then year 2, you would take that $241,250 and you'd multiply that by the 375, and that would be year 2. You'd have a $90,468 and change 75-cent depreciation amount. You would subtract that from the 241. That would give you a new balance of 150, new book value of 781.25. I can't do the one. And then that would become the third year's amount of beginning balance. And that would be multiplied by 0.375. That would come to 56,542.92. And that would be deducted from your book value. That would bring you down to 94,238 if I could fit it. And then that would become your last year's. Now, if you multiply that, it's actually going to leave you with below the residual value on this one, or the salvage value, which is 70,000. So really what you're going to do in this case is find the difference between the 70 and 94, which comes out to 24,238. That's all you're going to depreciate at that last year to leave you with the $70,000. Does that make sense? Because if you had done the multiplication that last year, you would actually have you have a lower value than the salvage value, but because the salvage value is 70,000, it has to end at 70,000. So that would be your depreciation that last year would not be the math. It would just be the difference between what the beginning book value of the year was and the ending balance, which is going to be 70,000 because of that residual. So that's what we call the declining balance method. And that one's not too hard. They're all very similar. Like I mentioned, once you get the factor that you need to be using, then you just build the table. And the last one is my favorite one of all of them. And I'm going to go ahead and go to that because to me, this is the easiest one as well. And this one's called the sum of the not the sum of the years, the units of production method. So it's basically based on how much you use the asset over the course of the years. So for instance, in this case, if you look at the problem, Prestige Limousine Services purchased a limousine with an expected useful life of 75,000. So they expect the limousine to go that far. The cost of the limousine is 54,000. And if the limousine was driven in the following number of miles each year, prepare a depreciation schedule by using the units of production method. After finding the depreciation per mile, round the dollar amount to 3 decimal places for use in calculating your schedule. So it does have a residual I didn't put down of 7,500. So again, the first thing we want to find out is we want to find out the total depreciation. So in this case, we want to really it's called depreciation per unit. So that's the formula that you would use here. We want to find out, well, if it's per unit, then how much is it going to be depreciated? So this would be cost. Gosh, sorry about this. Minus salvage divided by units of service. So they said that they thought they could get 75,000 miles out of this, right? And their cost was 54,500 minus the residual, which was 7,500. This is really hard. So I would do the math on that, and it's going to come out to 0.627 per mile. So basically, every mile they drive this limousine, it's going to be 0.627 per mile depreciated off of the total amount. So again, we have $54,000. That's how much they 54,500. My bad. This is 54,500. That's how much the total amount of it was. So they're going to depreciate it by 0.627 for every mile they drive. So I'm not going to make a schedule, although you're supposed to. In year one, it says they drive 12,500 miles, right? So you'd multiply that by 0.627. That would come out to $7,837.50. That amount would have to be deducted from the 54,500. And that would give you a new book value at the end of year one with all those miles of 46,662.20. And then for year two, you would take the mileage again, the 16 or 18,300 times 6.627. That would give you years two depreciation. You would subtract that from the 46,662. That's now your new book value. Then in year three, you would multiply the 15,900 by the 627. That would give you year three depreciation. That would be deducted from the latest book value, and you go all the way down until you have $7,500 left at the end of that schedule. Is this one in PowerPoint?
Yes, Professor, it's there in PowerPoint slide 19.
Okay, I'm going to go there this time, and I'm going to just show you this schedule because I don't have room to do it. So I'm going to scroll down, and there you go. There's the problem, same problem that you can see on your screen. You guys can see my screen? No, let me make sure you can. You should be able to see my screen. All right. And then here's the schedule that I was putting together. The first year, 627 units produced, or in this case, miles driven. It came out to a depreciation of 7,837, and then that would be deducted from the original book value. So that gives you 46,662. Year two, the same depreciation per unit rate applies, but this time they drove 18,300 miles. That's a total depreciation for the year of 11,474. Their accumulated depreciation, all you're doing with accumulated depreciation is you're adding up each year's new amount and giving a total of the two together. So this totals the first two, this totals the first three, this totals the first four, etc. And then you deduct this amount, the annual depreciation, from the book value, and that gives you your new book value. And that's what you start with, deduct from the next year. So all the way down, in this case, again, the 627 times 12,004 should have been closer to 7,000-8,000. But because there was only 5,000 left, in order to keep my residual 7,500, all they did was take the 7,500 and subtract it from the existing book value, in this case 13.2, and that gave them the 5,743, and that's all that they depreciated at that final year. So keep in mind that final year may be less than the actual depreciation that you're using. Does that make sense?
Yes, Professor.
So that is all that you need to be concerned with, those 4 methods of depreciation, as well as those 3 methods of inventory. And if you follow my instructions on that, if you just go through the book and do the sections, you'll pretty much grasp this week's. It's not difficult. It's really just wrapping your mind around the time frame. These schedules are all in the book. And to be honest with you, I don't think I even asked you to build any schedules. Maybe on one I do, but I don't usually build a schedule on this last one, units of production. I just go through and figure out, how much depreciation they had each year, and I just deduct it, to the end. But these problems are all asking for it. So if it asks for a schedule, please put one together. If it doesn't, you don't need to. All right. So that's pretty much it for these 2 weeks. Let me, does anybody have any questions at all?
No, Professor.
Lizette, Gabriel, you guys have any questions?
No.
No,
Okay, did it make sense to you guys?
Yes.
we're good. Yeah.
Okay. So hopefully this week's a little easier. You feel a little more relaxed and are not too stressed out about interest. If any of you need to go back over 11, actually 11 and 10 and 11, you're done. So it will not be on the final exam. So you won't have to worry about those again, but the annuities and the mortgages will be on the final exam. So if you need help with those, let me know and we'll work out a time to meet and go over that so you get it. But I think everybody did pretty good. I was surprised on how well everybody did on the annuities as I was going through and doing the quizzes and stuff from last week. So, and the check-in assignments. Okay, everybody, we'll have a great rest of your week. And thank you for tuning in today. I appreciate it. It's nice to have an audience because I don't know for sure if my screen is being shared. And thank you, Bhavna, for pointing out that the PowerPoint slides were a lot easier to get to than opening the book. Even though I had opened it, it still would have took me a little bit to get to where I needed to go. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All
Thank
right.
you very much for taking.
Yeah, you're welcome, everybody. Have a great week.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Guys, good work. Okay, bye-bye.